Hello. We are so close to done with this one. I'm very excited to wrap it up. It's been fun sharing the process here, and also it's really helped me figure out exactly how long this stuff takes, which is pretty neat. So I've got my pens and brushes, and we were in the middle of adding some highlights with this white Sigma Uniball Signo pen. So let's get that working again. So that is fairly nice little white highlights. They're not super opaque, but if I really need opaque, I've got white gouache. So, and I really like how this zone looks in particular with the little white highlights around the foam. So that's where we're going to continue to outline the foam. And then later today, I'm going to start 7 days of virtual plein air painting. And I will be live on the YouTubes because that sounds fun. It's a holiday. I want to hang out. If anyone has suggestions on places to paint, I'm thinking I'll sort of set some parameters and then use Map Crunch and just keep refreshing until I find something I'm excited about. I also watched Arlie Bean do... There's the puppy. Watched Arlie Bean do a Zorn palette painting. Definitely made me want to do a Zorn palette painting. I've done stuff like that in portrait painting class at school almost 10 years ago. It really does make you think about relative color. The Zorn palette is red, yellow, black, and white. So you don't have a cool blue or green or anything like that. You have to kind of make your cool colors yourself with black, and by contrasting black with your warm red and yellow. And I feel like I've got red and yellow and black and white gouache, so that could be fun. I don't think I'll do it for the plein air, though. I think the Zorn palette is friendliest to figure painting. And so I would start there, though I'm confident that Zorn did all sorts of stuff, and other people have done all sorts of things in the Zorn palette. I don't think it's impossible at all. But I just think it's a distinct challenge from my plein air challenge. You know? But yeah. Yeah, so I will be scanning this afterwards and probably playing around. I like the colors. I feel like my phone is not capturing them accurately. Hopefully the scanner has a better time of it. But in the end, that's what Photoshop is for. Kind of making up the difference between what my eye can see and what my tech can pick up. I usually have to go in and really push the cyan saturation. Nothing really seems to grab it at the same saturation that I can get out of my paint. So I've enjoyed this painting, doing this sort of all gouache thing. I also had a lot of fun a few weeks ago doing a painting that was watercolor plus white gouache, which is a great way to sort of add opaque paint options to your watercolor kit. And I usually include a little pan of dried white gouache to work with when I have put together a watercolor kit, because I like at least being able to lay in a couple of sharp highlights in places. Watercolor can be really punishing certain techniques, and I don't owe anybody that kind of dedication, right? It's okay if I use gouache in my mind. I'm not trying to be Sergeant. So Oh, yeah. Just right against my heel. That's a good dog. You a good dog? You see a squirrel? Dogs are the best. So yeah, I do like, but I hadn't really explored mixing it in a gouache capacity, you know, using a little bit of the white paint to add opacity to my watercolors. So that is something I would also like to explore more. Just trying all the things. I want to try all the things. I think one of the things that becomes more obvious with time to me, but I really love paint. I love painting. I love putting color on surfaces, big exciting blobs of color, and that's so satisfying and fun for me. And every time I see some new way to do it, I want to do a test run of that. It's my whole jam. And I will always, I think, have some instinct to paint. I know that, you know, I'm on holiday break as of today. My partner's on vacation. We are chilling out. We are I'm going to bake some almond crescent cookies in the next 2 or 3 weeks because those are my favorite holiday treat. They're like shortbread with almond flour in it, rolled in powdered sugar. I super recommend them. You know, we'll take the dog on some long walks. Go look at a tree or two. See a couple of friends and their baby for his birthday. Exchange gifts, just sort of chill out. And I know that like part of chilling out is not doing the thing you do for work. And work for me is making art. But for me, I also get a fair amount of regenerative brain stuff from painting, in particular, I think. Right? I like doing comics. I've got a comic project that's very backburnered right now, but I keep a page up on the wall to remind myself how much I love it. Comics are hard work. Comics are really fun. They are really hard work. I do concept art as my job and art direction, and I should do another portfolio piece. I should try and do one every holiday season, just something ambitious to bulk up my portfolio between gigs. Because it's not an industry where you get to show your work all that much to the public. And if I want to keep finding new gigs, I gotta kind of add fresh work myself to my portfolio. But that is also much of it work, right? I really want to make the best I absolutely can, the best artwork, the best ideas, the best designs. So, and I want to make good paintings. But I think when I allow myself to be experimental, then it's very refreshing and recharging and regenerative for me. And that's what I think painting can be. It's not guaranteed. Painting is also hard work and can take a lot of thinking. I feel like that's maybe the thing that is least understood in popular culture. There's a lot of like artists standing in front of canvas, hand on chin, pondering. But there's no explanation of what's going on, right? It's almost played as a joke that they're like way too deep into it. But painting is a series of decisions that you have to make over and over and over again. Many of them in response to decisions you've already made and goals you have. And it can be really hard work in terms of holding your goals in your mind, considering the whole thing, considering the part you're doing, understanding your material limitations, any other limitations. I use a limited palette often. It's It's a lot. Um, I find it very mentally stimulating for that reason. I'm very excited to get into this plein air week, even though it's going to be virtual plein air because it's back down to freezing here. Just in time for my plein air week. What the hell? But I know it's going to be really nice for my brain to look at these sorts of challenges, look at a picture, figure out what I like about it, how to capture that in the mediums that I'm using, what I want to highlight, what I want to ignore, so on and so forth. So those are fun, chewy decisions, and making them and then putting the paint down, the physical challenge and physical satisfaction in the materials. Mwah, I love it. I love it so much. Like I knew when I was younger that I liked making art, right? Obviously I picked this career. It's not a career you pick because you don't like holding a pencil and drawing and making images happen. If you did, you've made a terrible mistake. Because you're not gonna enjoy yourself if you don't enjoy the process. But it's just become obvious to me what a good match my sort of brain is for this process. And that's been neat to kind of learn about myself, you know? And I guess that's sort of when people talk about what like a calling is, right? That can be one part of it. Like I think also to me there's moral responsibilities as a creator, ethical practices as a creator, socially motivated approaches or content or practices within that I think also fall under that sort of like this is my calling kind of thing. But yeah, I think one aspect of it is this kind of compatibility with the process, right? Like I'm lucky to have some very dedicated professionals in my family, doctors and lawyers and people dealing with finance, and those careers can be done just from a profit motive. I don't think anybody's a doctor only for the profit. Well, okay, I'm sure the world is terrible enough somebody is, but I imagine most doctors, especially here in Canada where it's not easy to become a doctor and do a get-rich-quick scheme with it, I think they are coming to it because of the social responsibility, but also I'm sure from talking to my family members that there is a compatibility with the process of doing the work that they do. If they choose to do research, if they choose to do emergency care, if they choose to do sort of like clinic work, right? Like they are picking a process that is compatible with them, that lets them get up every day excited about what they're going to do. You know, in a social responsibility way, but also I'm confident you couldn't do it if you couldn't find something exciting and connecting about the actual activities you're doing every day. That's my stance on that. Like, if you don't like reading things, you probably aren't going to enjoy being a lawyer. Reading and puzzling and parsing and researching and consolidating. Right? If you're not interested in kind of solving puzzles, I think being a programmer would be a really uncomfortable job. And I enjoy the act of drawing and painting a lot. And I pick a job and a career that lets me make use of that. And that has been really rewarding. And when we someday have UBI, I'll feel a little bit less broke and more rewarded. I do love my job, though. So yeah, I'm not good. Taking a busman's holiday here. Absolutely, just continuing to do my job as I vacation. It's just my way. Missed a line on our foreground figure. 03. Use a damp brush to clean up this smudge. That helped. It's better than it was. I think we're pretty much there. So I was thinking about very gently doing a line outline around the tape, but I think I'll remove the tape first. I'm going to mute this because I'm going to heat it up with the blow dryer because this tape and this paper are not good friends. So sorry for the silence. I've got a blow dryer. blow dryer done. I'm going to go ahead and say that if it worked, it did not work well enough. And that I really should not use this tape on this paper. But I'm not damaging the image at all, so I'll take that as a win. So, I was so stubborn about not having a yellow in this palette. I don't need a yellow. I'm cool. I can do whatever limited palette I want. I'm powerful. I don't rely on yellows. I think a yellow would help. And I think I will add it in pencil crayon. So, I have over here 3 rolls of my pencil crayon collection. I was thinking of hanging these on the wall, but it's a bit of an awkward reach. This table's just deep enough. So, here we are instead. What yellow? What yellow? So I have some really fun, like very bright greens that aren't very opaque. It's been interesting because I learned all the stuff about how to use paint and what pigments are opaque and what pigments granulate and what pigments mix well. And then I came back to materials I'd used. I mean, a lot of these when I was pretty little. I started collecting pencil crayons. Like these are Prismacolor Premier. In grade school, probably. You know, just sort of getting excited about them is the next thing up from crayons. And then someone in my family was like, well, you want the good ones. And I was like, it turns out I do now. Are these the good ones? I don't know. Oh boy, barky bark. Back in a second. Hello, sorry. The dog is our doorbell. This yellow might be good. It's not that opaque, but it's quite bright. It just warms some spots up. Yeah, I think a mustard yellow would have been a good call earlier on in the painting process. But that's okay. That's why we have all these different materials to work with. This is why I give myself permission to do multimedia work at this point. Because you're never gonna really catch all of the possibilities. And I find myself thinking about things I want to change in paintings at all sorts of stages. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to need much of this. Just around looking for spots that I can kind of use this to warm up. Oh, I really think that's helping. Okay. That was sunburst yellow, so if I need that again, that's what I'm looking for. So I actually bought a few new pencil crayons recently. I've got dark green. This is Polychromos. It's a Tannengrün, a pine green. I've got an indigo blue. Don't think that'll be a good fit. I like these two. And I have like a dark, see, marine green's pretty nice. Olive green. Here's moss green. Just to see what I can do to kind of pull the water together. So that would make it all a little bit muddier. I do like that dark green. What about our Tannengrün? It's a little bit colder, it might be a good fit. Just gonna very gently add a little bit of green over some of the nuances in the watercolor here, just to simplify things a little. Like just really this corner, unifying it I think will be a big help. It's going to make the fish pop a little bit more. It's going to make the character pop a little bit more. It's going to kind of simplify the whole composition. And it's working. I like it. Oh, it's almost done. I said, oh, I'm nearly finished. Well, I'm not. So I apologize. That's my shitty bro voice. It's not helpful. Hey friends! I finished my inking and then I decided I needed to do pencil crayons. But it's helping, and I'm glad I'm doing it. But also, come on! It's frustrating how much it's helping. This is how you glaze on gouache, with a pencil crayon. Or colored pencil, I guess. For my non-Canadian viewers. So I have some really fun purples as well that I recently bought. Yeah, that's nice. That's just sort of like a darker, bluer option. Can use to add a little bit of dimension. Aw, nice. Breakfast. I definitely have bots, yeah. If you feel like reporting them, go for it. Otherwise, I'll clean it up after the stream. I don't feel like I'm offended or that they're dangerous. Just don't click on sketchy links, friends. I know that's not a link, but they want you to think it is. They would really love it if you thought it was a link. Breakfast sounds excellent. What is your breakfast? I'm gonna pick a different color for the guy in the back. This beautiful cobalt turquoise. The other thing now that I've worked with enough paint is that I notice different pigments showing up in different places. That's really cool. Angle that bad boy up a little bit. Okay. Well, project just add a little bit of color has been really helpful. It doesn't take much, right? That's the thing that's probably the coolest part. It really doesn't take much to get things to pop. What about this very light? This is a pale lavender. I mean, that's beautiful gray. I feel like I can use that to add some cool light on these rocks. You know what? I want to go even bluer. Let's get a little bit of this down and then we'll go find a cloud blue or something in my collection. This one's called Distant Green. Yeah, pencil crayons as a final touch are really great for kind of just sort of laying a layer of color at whatever sort of density you like. You can use them to add a lot of texture, but this is hot press paper, so it's not forcing texture, which I appreciate because I actually, once you start, it's hard to stop. But you can also, especially on smooth paper, just kind of get a gradient in or a little touch up in one spot. Do you want something that's going to make those rocks pop a little bit more color-wise? Get back in there, various white pencil crayons. Alright, blush pink, what's your deal? How opaque are you? Not very. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, now that I know a little bit more about opaque and transparent pigments, you can see that again in pencil crayons, and that really tells you what I can get away with sort of glazing and where maybe that's doing nothing. Okay. Warm or pink? You have just, that's not actually that warm. Carmine, magenta. Deco pink is pretty cute and warm. See, but like when I layer it, it doesn't look warm. It's quite cool. Don't make me go to the reds. I'll do it. I'll get out a peach. Yeah, that's what I needed. That's what we needed all along. I think of this as well as like adding color complexity. Watercolor, you get all this sort of like dripping and layering and pigment mixing and granulation and texture, and gouache doesn't automatically come with that. People talk about it as a really great sort of paper practice analog to digital, and I think that's one of the reasons, because if you want to add that kind of character, you have to plan it. It's not going to show up on its own. In the same way you have to make intentional brush strokes and really think about what you want. Also, somewhere in here I mixed very low saturated, desaturated light tone for this wizard's skin, and that's too bad. I'm gonna get that purple out again. What happens when I bring just a little bit of it into the rocks? They look a little bit more interesting. Now, this is certainly something you can do with gouache. You just have to mix the colors and put them there. On some level, I could have kept painting and adding color complexity with paint for a very long time. And that would be cool. That wouldn't be a bad thing. I just don't have that patience. And I that's what I was talking about last time, where it's like I felt like I had to prove to myself that I could paint to that level. And it doesn't, that's not my goal, right? To become the best painter or to only make real paintings. Because I don't actually care when I look at art about that stuff. I want to see art that I find enticing and interesting and telling me a story or setting a mood, or, you know, I want vibes, cool vibes. And there's no material requirement or like performance requirement from the artist beyond that for me. So why would I put that on myself? You know? I'm confident that some of the art that I love the most is like 12 different processes layered on top of each other through fits of hilarious indecision. Not that unlike what I'm doing here. And honestly, that's kind of cool. And that gives me something when I'm looking at it that can be extremely interesting. Right? So when somebody's looking at my work, are they seeing something that is that level of interesting? Am I able to give them something that is that intriguing, you know? And holding myself to some standard where I have to do that by using only one medium in this level of incredible perfection, that's silly. That's really silly of me. Doesn't stop the thought from being in my head. For the record, that thought is there and it's loud. Trying to catch it more is what's going on. Right, I work in concept art, and the motto of concept art is just say what you need to say with it. Just get it done. Right, there's no time in that industry to fuck around and be like, no, but I want to do it the right way, because there isn't a right way. There's done and there's not done, and those are the two process judgments available. Right? Nobody is checking that you are using the right number of layers if you're delivering a flat image. Right? Now there's process that can kind of screw you over. There's process that can slow you down. Those are all real and need to be negotiated with, but some external judgment on appropriate process in terms of like artistry or the word I'm looking for is tradition. In terms of tradition, that does not apply at all. Yeah. So, trying to remember that in my traditional work. Yeah, no, but like that's it. Like that, I mean, in commercial art, right? Process is important on the inside in terms of how you make things and what you make and what it looks like. But it's not important. It's not a measure of the work the same way it would be in like an art gallery. Do need a pink. Can't believe I don't have a warm pink. Who hacked this up? Is carmine red? Maybe. Very lightly used in a couple of spots. Yeah, I guess even, you know, I mean, we're in a day of like streaming. I'm literally streaming right now. Documenting your process, talking about it, sharing it. And it can make it feel more significant, or feel like it has significance in places that it really doesn't. It's not a performance, right? The way you make the piece, if it's for commercial art, if it's being judged on its final state, that one ends up actually being really cold on the canvas. So like when I layer the salmon one, sorry, it's like kind of gray purple over a lot of the cooler colors I have, so not warm enough to defeat them. I think this is working. I might literally have to get an orange out. Got vermilion, pale vermilion. That seems promising. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, paint. These pencil crayons are just as misleading as paint tubes, except I don't get to squeeze them out and just look at the pigment. I have to like remember to look at the actual, like test it. Deception. Yes. Fully and completely. Pale vermilion. Who knew? Who knew? Yeah. The other thing, and I talked about this with the gouache, is I'm really trying not to just put the same color evenly across the whole painting. That's a trap that I fall into a lot. And it makes everything feel the same level of importance, which is not actually how I feel about everything in this composition. What do I got here? Jade green. Do I have a second jade green somewhere? Celadon. I should put that one on the list. As you can see, I have used it a lot. And it's because it's all reliable. Drop something back. I know there's a little bit of a wiggle going as I use the pencil crayons. Sorry. Sky blue light is pretty good. Recommend it. Maybe a little too light for what we're doing here. Anyways, yeah, I think it can be easy to see people doing processes. And there's also, I think, when people talk about art online, they can get very like this, not that. Just fun to say and fun to debate and overwhelming, I think, for a lot of people who don't have experience enough to understand that that's actually a false equivalency, or it's like not, it's a very situational thing. I'm periwinkling some of the blue. That's a verb, periwinkling. That sounds like a euphemism. I'm sorry. I opened my mouth and that word came out. Yes. No. You have to have a process that you can get into. You have to make things more than make them properly. At least for the first while. You can abso-fucking-lutely I love getting into the nitty gritty of like trying a new process, and that's why I know all this is a trap, because I can get extremely committed to a process that stops working for me at a certain point. Or it doesn't get me all the way there. Like if I had left this just in gouache, I don't think this painting would be as good. Because I did the lines, I think that made it a lot better. And that's all ink, right? Which you don't put on gouache in a magical hierarchy in my mind that I know is wrong. And then I'm getting out pencil crayons, which, like, for sure were not allowed in my fine art school education, like, anywhere near any finished work in painting class. Even though we were in a painting class that was very interested in, like, subverting painting. It wasn't a medium I saw anybody using. Boy, this periwinkle is gorgeous and helpful and giving me that cool, warm, cool contrast I've been looking for. And I love it. I think you can see some of it in here. I'm getting kind of a warm yellow against this periwinkle blue. It might even be exaggerated on the camera a little bit. It's delicious though. Extremely good color contrast experience. Yeah, no. People are like, no, you can't use this supply, this tool that is like so friendly and easy that we give it to kids because now you're too good for that. It's like, what if I got really good at this tool that's friendly and accessible and useful and predictable, right? Like, that sounds nice. Gouache is a pain in the ass. I love it. I really love it. I'm going to use it all week. But it's not. It's not a predictable, easy thing for a big chunk of the time that you start using it. And every time you add a new paint, you're like, what the fuck is happening now? Them's the breaks. But markers are fun and exciting, and they do things together that no other medium does. And they are fucking challenging to really get exactly what you want out of them. And the people that spend that time getting there, it's just as fucking admirable as anybody who spent that time learning how to use oil paint or some shit, right? Anyways, blah 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 blah. I'm on my high horse today. And I'm on my high horse today because I got mad at myself for being like, I can fucking do whatever I want. It's my painting. Why am I feeling limited? Why am I feeling like I'm not allowed? If I don't like it, I can change it. And I'm so glad I did. I really think it has a lot more to say and to offer now. Like, I really think it's gone somewhere exciting because I stopped worrying about, like, well, I said it was a gouache painting. I said it was a limited palette. I'm very, very bad at getting stuck in limited palettes where I'm like, well, I only wanted to use these 4 paints and they're not doing everything I want, but this is what I said, and then I don't. You know. And things, hi, Romka. And that's a right pain. And I do it to myself. I think those are traps everywhere. I definitely fell into that trap when I was like, I'm going to become a person who makes comics and goes to TCAF, and it has to be real comic, it has to be this sort of thing, it has to be in a book, and it has to have, like, this kind of, like, I just had all of these preconceptions in my mind about what would count, and I count. And it sucked. It stressed me out so much. I didn't need to be that stressed. Muted turquoise. No. Okay, well now I know that terracotta is the same color as my burnt sienna paint. So that's good. Now I know that it's really opaque. The lessons I'm learning today. Yeah. I do have those wolves inside me. You are correct. I extremely want to just throw paint at a wall. I love it. But then I want the respect and admiration of being an artiste. I don't really know from whom. I don't take most people's opinions very seriously unless they're close. Look, typing's overrated. We all know it. Sunburst yellow. Let's wrap up with a little bit more of that. Pop a few greens. I think one of the things I want to play with as I get into my plein air week is picking up two colors at once on my brush as I paint with gouache. Seeing what I can get out of them. I think that would be really fun. Make a big mess. The other thing I did, which I'm excited about, is I found someone who made a chart of all of the Prismacolor Premier pencil crayons and their pigment numbers, which are on these little guys. Not pigment numbers, I guess, but like lot numbers or whatever. So that I can swatch all of my colors, which does sound really pretentious, but like we said, like you can't tell from the barrel of the pencil what heckin' color you're holding. And it would be nice to just have a sheet up on my wall in front of me. So I could be like, oh, I need a warm green. Okay, I don't want that one. That was definitely cold. I want this one. It's completely transparent, right? Like, futzing around finding the right one isn't the end of the world, but this might be a big help. So sometime this week I'm going to fill that out. Is that fun? Should I stream that? That sounds so boring. Maybe I'll just film it and do a time lapse. This fish has so many colors on it now. It's absolutely turning into a hot mess, but I kind of love it. I regret nothing. That was kind of the idea in the first place, so. Okay, I'm standing. I'm doing the thing where you stand way the hell back. Way the hell back. The only spot that feels kind of confusing is in here, so let's see what I can do with that. What will moss screen do for me? It's pretty warm. Sorry for the wobble. Pretty wacky how quickly glazing with some pencil crayon can tie stuff back together. Oh, hello, Romka. Big grump, making grump noises. I hear you. You'll make it? I'm glad to hear it. Just kind of looking to like take some of these warm zones and just expand them a little bit. One more pass with a colder green. I've got this really lovely peacock green. Boy, I have swatched some things today. I love it. Let's do one last pass with a nice cold green. I'm trying to just kind of spotlight some areas with it. And I think it's working. Which is nice. Yeah, it's wacky how well this works. Would use again. Now, one thing I have learned is that the white pencil crayon is not my friend in most of these situations. And as I mull over if there's anything else I want to do, I will show you why. So it creates this kind of cool texture, but it's really, like, sorry, cold layer over the texture. But it is really hard to get a smoother, even zone with it. Like to do like a gradient from 0 to white. It's just really, because I think it's just opacity. There's like, the pigment makes it white, but it's relying entirely on being opaque. If you're putting it over something dark, you're likely going to show every line you make. And generally I don't want that kind of texture with a cold color. Low saturation, like no saturation color. It's probably extremely not what I want. Oh my goodness, the more I tweak this, the more I want to tweak this. I want it to go back and I want it to be warmer. That doesn't make sense. I want it to be different from the one beside it. Where's our periwinkle? What can I get away with? So yeah, the white pencil crayons, for them to be opaque, they end up being very waxy and crumbly and textural, even on very smooth paper. And it's a bit of a trap for me that I've fallen into before. And you kind of end up having to commit or somehow get it off your painting. It's easier said than done. Just futzing around. Where's my vermilion? Yeah, mostly I just want to like kick up the contrast in a couple spots. I could leave these out and put them away after, but I don't always want to do it that way. Yeah. I feel good about that. I feel so much better about it too. I was definitely last night looking at it being like, well, I'll finish the lines. I just don't know if it ended up where I wanted it to be. But now I feel like quite happy with it. And that is the roller coaster, my friends. That is the way that it goes. Okay, so we gotta do the old Sigmy. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna take it off the thing. I might try and sand down some of the rough paper from the tape. Or I might not. I don't know. Sometimes that helps, but sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the paper itself. Probably in the sandpaper. But yeah, ta-da! It's a painting. I did it over many hours, and I showed it all on the YouTubes. And I'm gonna make a playlist with all of these live videos, and I'm gonna upload a time lapse. Because why the heck not? That would be satisfying. Anyways, hey, thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out, chatting. I really appreciate the company. Whenever I'm on here, it's so nice to talk to friendly faces. and not bought. Packing great. So yeah, thank you. See you on the internet. Bye!